In some of my podcasts, I use the term "the many lives of" to talk about the different aspects of their career, the many paths they've taken. But if anything this applies, is this gentleman. He's not only been an NHL star, he's been a TV journalist, an addiction counselor, a male model, a role model, a survivor from the trials and tribulations of substance abuse. And Jim McKenney has a lot of respect across Canada, especially in the Toronto region, again for being a survivor. And to my knowledge, he's the longest tenure Maple Leaf of the modern era. I think he had played in 14 parts of 14 consecutive seasons for Toronto, 13 or 14, which just goes to show with all the changes with Harold Ballard from the 1960s into the late 1980s, he could survive anything. Now, again, James Claude Howie McKenny, who was named Howie because of resemblance to Howie Young, that crazy player that ended up becoming an actor of all things, is a Canadian retired broadcaster and, again, former star with the Maple Leafs. Now, he played 604 games for the Maple Leafs during his career, as well as with Minnesota. He was known, again, by the nickname of Howie, due to his resemblance to, again, the great character Howie Young. Now, McKenny, in probably one of his most known quotes, and he's had many, once said that half the game is mental and the other half is being mental. Now, born in Ottawa, Ontario, 5'11", 180 defenseman, was eventually taken 17 overall in 1963 by the Leafs after a prominent minor hockey career. We're going to get into that very soon. Now, again, he was born in Ottawa and moved to Toronto as a child. Now, he first came to major prominence with the Neil McNeil Maroons of the Metro Junior A League in '63. When the league folded in '63, McKenny transferred to the OHA's Toronto Marlies, who won the Memorial Cup in '64. Now, he was drafted before he moved to the Marlies. That's how good he was with the Neil McNeil Maroons. As a junior, McKenny was considered by many scouts as the second best defenseman prospect after Bobby Orr. In later years, McKenny spoke openly of his personal life and career being negatively affected by periods of alcoholism developed during his teenage years. Now, I haven't talked to any psychologists that have studied the McKenny case, but in cases of high pressure of a young individual, if they have a predominance towards addiction abuse, it will come out. And I think some people put too much pressure on him in a certain shape or form. He was a good quality defenseman. He could be very strong in the offense and the defense in a course of a game. He could play any style. Now, this was the early years of the draft, and when the Maple Leafs took him to the third round of the '63 draft, 17 overall, McKenny eventually had difficulty staying in the NHL early in his career and often played forward instead of his usual position on defense. He was then called up from the Marlies to play 2 games with the Leafs in '66 and eventually given 2 other opportunities to make the Leafs teams in '67 and '68, but only played a total of 11 games. However, on February 24, 1968, he did score the game-winning goal in a 1-0 victory over Boston, again, which was the second counter of his NHL career. He was not promoted to stay on the Maple Leafs for several years, attributed to a poor attitude, some say possibly his alcoholism, and his antipathy towards the high-pressure style of coach and GM, the very, very strange Ponchimlak. Now, he played in the minor leagues for the Tulsa Oilers of the CPHL, the Rochester Americans of the AHL, and the Vancouver Canucks of the WHL. Now, McKenny and Don Cherry were actually roommates at a time when he played on the road with the Rochester Americans. Now, when he became a full-time member of the Maple Leafs during the '70 season, he became one of the Leafs' top defensemen for 8 full seasons. He had the 5th highest points total for Leafs defensemen, accumulating 327 points, including 81 goals in 594 games. Now, behind only Boris Helming, Thomas Caberlet, Tim Horton, and Ian Turnbull. McKenny was paired frequently with former Marlborough teammate Brian Glennie, with offensive skills complementing the hard-hitting, defense-orientated style of Glennie. In '74, he also played the NHL All-Star Game. An ironic twist of fate, in '71 he was the body double for Art Hindle in the Canadian hockey romance face-off, where every time you saw the Art Hindle's character skating the ice, it was McKenny, and he performed quite well. He never missed a beat. When you saw him on the ice, Art Hindle made Art Hindle look like a hockey player, which is what you're supposed to do. Now, near the end of his career, McKenny was sent down to CHL's Dallas Blackhawks for the '78 season. Despite the demotion, he was named to CHL's second All-Star team. On May 15, '78, however, he was traded to the Minnesota North Stars for cash and future considerations. Now, he played only in 10 games with Minnesota before retiring from the NHL. He played one season in Europe for Swiss and French teams before retiring completely from hockey. Now, this is where his career turns into many lives of Jim McKenney. After hockey, McKenney returned to Toronto and entered the broadcasting industry, selling advertising, and later as a color commentator for all things Italian-Canadian hockey games on a local cable station. He also worked as a male model. McKenney eventually joined the prestigious City TV network as a sports reporter for Toronto, and later a sports anchorman on the dinner hour broadcasts. At the end of the sports segments, Gordon Martin, who usually referred to McKenney by his nickname Howie, that successful part of his career drew a lot of fans across Toronto, Metro Toronto, and eventually across the nation, because he was seen as a very competent and very knowledgeable reporter. Unfortunately, while on vacation in 2002, McKenney suffered a heart attack, but was able to make a full recovery. Now, his broadcast on December 27, 2009 of City Pulse at Night, which was 11 o'clock airtime, was McKenney's last broadcast with City TV. Now, in 2013, McKenney was inducted in the Ottawa Sports Hall of Fame. Now, like I said before, he struggled with alcohol addiction for much of his career in hockey and TV. It started during his late teens, and his alcoholism continued well into his 40s. However, with good support and good treatment, he has been sober for 2 decades. Now, he helps other addicts by working as a counselor at the Canadian Centre for Addictions. Now, this kind of inspiration to many in that field has had a profound effect on the clients of the Drug Rehab Centre based in Port Hope, Ontario. Now, never played for Team Canada internationally, which is kind of a surprise, ladies and gentlemen. But just to talk about the rough stats about being a defenseman, he had more than 10 goals 5 times for Toronto, and scored more than 40 points 6 times. But the problem is he never really had a chance to go on a strong playoff run with Toronto, because Toronto was always getting knocked out in the first round. He only really expanded when he made the playoffs, and made the semifinals in '78. And by that time, he was mired in the minors with Dallas. Now, the AHL total is not too bad: 92 points in 113 games. Now, I've never been a person to say good job or not a good job or whatever. But, if people see McKenney's overall life of survival as a positive thing, all the power to him, because we have to take inspiration from certain people. But when it comes to the history of the Toronto Maple Leafs, he's not really spoke very, not say fondly, but at a level. If you had a player for the Montreal Canadiens played 12, 13, 14 straight years, you would talk about him more often. It's sort of like he's the lost star of the Maple Leafs for a lot of people, and I really don't know why, because, he's been in the media for years, he's faced his demons, he's been, following his own career path, doing exactly what he wanted to do with the talent that was given him. It's just kind of bizarre, that, he's not really a bigger star across Canada. If you're a Maple Leaf for, again, more than a dozen years and nobody talks about you, did you even exist? People talk about Brian Glennie more, and Brian Glennie didn't have the skills of McKenney, and neither did Dave Burrows. That's another story altogether. Anyway, I'm sorry to get bitchy, but the Toronto Maple Leafs, the way that the fans treat certain players that are retired and don't want to talk about certain trades that hurt their franchise. It's a very schizophrenic situation. So that's the many lives of Jim McKenney. Thanks for listening. Bye.